Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to introduce María Pastor. María has a doctorate from the University of Alicante with international mention, with the thesis Earth Construction in the Late Prehistory of the Southern Levant of the Iberian Peninsula, Material, Techniques and Building Processes, directed by Professor Francisco Javier Jover. She has carried out research stays at the University of Reading and the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom, as well as the Saxony Anhalt Office for Heritage Conservation and Archaeology from Halle, Germany. Her main line of research is focused on the archaeological study of materials and construction techniques with a multidisciplinary methodology based on macroscopic analysis, complemented with microscopic analysis and ethnoarchaeological and experimental approaches. She has paid particular attention to earthen architecture and the identification of the different uses and techniques of this material in the prehistory. She has participated in numerous conferences and scientific activities. Among her publications, I would like to highlight the book La construcción con tierra en arqueología, teoría, métodos, técnicas y aplicación, published in 2017 in Alicante, and the co-authorship of a glossary on traditional earth building techniques in 4 languages. I'm not reading the title, that is very long. It's published in Germany in 2019. She has extensive experience in archaeological excavations from different prehistoric chronologies, as well as from the Roman period in Spain and abroad. She also teaches at the master's degree in Historia del Mundo Mediterráneo y sus regiones de la Prehistoria a la Edad Media at the University of Alicante. She is currently a postdoctoral researcher at ICAC, as Maura has said, with a Juan de la Cierva formación contract from the Ministry of Science and Innovation, hosted by the research team Protohistoric Archaeology. She's participating in the project Transdisciplinary and Experimental Study of Combustion Structures in the Western Mediterranean during Protohistory, first millennium BC, under my coordination, and is also continuing and enlarging her research about architecture and construction techniques in the prehistory and the protohistory. We are organizing together a seminar about methods and techniques of study of ancient architecture, which will be held at the ICAC in an online format, the 4th of May, so it's in 2 weeks. Now I let Maria speak and present her research.
Well, now I hope you can see my screen. As I said, thank you everyone for being here. I am very happy to be here with you and to present my main topic of research, which now I have the fortune of developing from the ICAC. Well, the focus of my work is the archaeological study of building materials and techniques, especially earthen architecture, but also the multiple uses of earth or mud in domestic contexts, not only in building activities, but also in furniture or non-portable elements or objects. As you probably know, earth has been used throughout history as a fundamental building material. It is widely available in most regions of the world and also has great properties to be used as a building material. But we can say that it hasn't been studied much, especially non-monumental architecture, and neither from the perspective of archaeology. This has meant an important loss of information because when these materials are not considered, we lose data that contribute greatly to the knowledge of past societies. And this, therefore, should change. We hope that this changes. Well, regarding the archaeological study of earthen architecture, we have the remains, well-preserved or not so well-preserved, of different earthen architecture structures, as the ones we have just seen. But when they are not so well preserved, we also have strata, such as this that you can see here. This is the result of a mud brick building. And in many contexts, we also have fragments, fragments of daub, what we call daub, or hardened mud fragments coming from different structures and building parts. And they are better preserved when they are hardened, normally because of fire events. Well, this sort of materiality can be studied from different approaches. The main we can say all starts with the macroscopic or macrovisual analysis of the species, the direct observation of these building fragments, but the knowledge we can get from them is enriched when we combine together different approaches of this to this materiality, such as microscopic analysis, ethnoarchaeological comparisons, and also experimental tests. But as I said, all study of this kind of materiality should start with the macrovisual analysis that comprises diverse steps from the very cleaning of these fragments to an adequate packaging. And the core, the center of this analysis is the collection of data. We can obtain diverse information from the study of these materials thanks to the presence of, for example, negatives or imprints from building parts, such as wooden elements, canes, reeds, such as this case here, but also thanks to the presence of surfaces like this one that can be smooth or decorated. And thanks to all these features, we can propose an interpretation to try to know the origin or the nature of these fragments in their original structures. This data can be collected in a sheet such as this one here. We will focus on the macroscopic study of these earth construction remains on the coming seminar that Carmen Velarte has mentioned, that is called Methods and Techniques for the Study of Ancient Architecture in Archaeology, that will be organized, that is organized and will be held by ICAC in a few weeks. Well, this transversal and multidisciplinary methodology was applied in my PhD that addressed building materials, techniques, and building processes, studying the earthen remains of the diverse archaeological sites. And with the study of these fragments, we were able to know more about the architecture of diverse archaeological sites that are here in the map that you can see here in the southeast of the Iberian Peninsula. These were sites from the Neolithic to the early Neolithic to the early Iron Age. The earliest one was Los Limoneros. You can see that here a Neolithic site with negative structures dating from the 5th millennium BC. And the most recent site was Peña Negra, located in Crevillente, and dated in the 8th and 6th centuries BC. When we look at the late prehistory, when we look at the millennia from the early Neolithic to the early Iron Age, we can see that this is a phase of great development of earthen architecture in the Iberian Peninsula. We can see diverse changes in the archaeological record that allows us to see how the collective knowledge about how to build with earth developed in this context. As for example, we can see how stone basements appear in archaeological sites to protect the earthen walls from the base in this case. We see these stone bases in walls and other structures too. We see that these walls that many times were built with earth are also protected from the top thanks to roofs, but also with the development of plasters, of renders that not only made of mud, but also with other substances, diverse, that could be even pyrotechnological lime. This topic is under investigation, but in any case, not only mud, but many substances made, for example, thanks to the mixture of ashes, plant substances, even dung, the excrements from animals. All these substances were starting to be used to improve the properties of earth to build, and therefore these structures and buildings developed in the Iberian Peninsula. And well, thanks to this postdoc contract, I am now able to continue with this research in diverse lines of research, and also to focus on the earthen architecture developed especially in protohistory, when earth was also widely used to build with it, not only for the buildings themselves, but also to be applied in furniture and non-portable elements such as combustion structures. Now I have the opportunity to collaborate with Dr. Carme Belarte in the project Transcom, studying combustion structures from the first millennium BC in the Western Mediterranean in domestic context, where earth was a key building material, also in combination with other materials, natural, such as stone, but also anthropic and reused materials like pottery sherds. And we see that the reuse of materials is very common, also from prehistoric chronologies. Well, among the most interesting lines of research that resulted from my PhD, we can highlight the use of mats, of vegetal woven surfaces used as just another building material, in this case, combined with wood and reed and also mud infills. This was something that we could observe, especially in the Chalcolithic site of Les Moreres in Crevillente. Here you can see one of the structures located in the site and made with mud, earth, but also with wood and other elements. Well, we could see that these mats were integrated to make the walls and maybe also the roofs. And this fact allowed us to propose or to raise the possibility that that similar findings from other sites of mats, negatives of mats, could respond to the same uses of this material. This is something that we have to study further to determine the extent of these uses in architecture, but it's something that is of great interest. And also, another thing that we could study was the earth construction technique of cob balls. You can see here one remarkable example of the archaeological Bronze Age site of Caramoro 1 in Elche, where we observed and identified this technique. And after that, we could observe that in at least 2 other sites, all of them dating from the early 2nd millennium BC, the beginnings of the 2nd millennium BC. And this is one technique that could be mistaken for mud bricks, for adobes, but it's a very different building technique. Here you can see the diverse earth building techniques, or the diverse ways of building with earth using modular units, or modular units. Here we have the cob balls, and then we have adobes or mud bricks made with the hands or made in molds. All in all, in pre- and protohistory in the Iberian Peninsula, we have diverse earth building techniques. They are well known, the mixed building techniques of wattle and daub and masonry that combine mud or earth with other materials, natural materials, in this case stones, or vegetal materials like canes or wood. We have the cob balls that we mentioned. It is possible that handmade adobes were used. We know very well, especially from the first millennium BC, molded adobes made with molds, and we have to study further the exact origins of rammed or compacted earth. It is very difficult in archaeological context to identify rammed earth and to differentiate this technique from other ones that were using also compacted monolithic or massive earth walls. It is difficult to identify the exact indicators of this technique. Well, we have seen that it's very important to differentiate cob balls from mud bricks. Cob balls were used when still humid and were packed or piled together, but adobes were this technique, among the mud brick building technique, adobes are pre-designed, are left to dry, And when they are dried, these bricks are used as if they were stones in masonry, as individual fragments. And in any case, we know that these are two different building techniques, but cove walls could be related to a mud brick, and the origins of mud brick could be related to this other building technique. Well, Adobe's mud bricks are for sure a fundamental incorporation in architecture, in prehistory and protohistory, in the Iberian Peninsula, and also in other Mediterranean regions, of course. We know that adobes that can be mass-produced, that can be stored, transported, or even exchanged, are very well known from the first millennium BC. We have here two examples, but there are many, many more. But it could be that they were used before, during prehistoric times, because we have some examples from the third millennium. Here you can see the photos of some of these sites where adobes could have been used. But in this case here, for example, we still don't know exactly if they are handmade mud bricks or molded mud bricks, but we have to study this topic further, and this is one of the lines that I would like to pursue during this postdoc. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I hope this topic is of your interest, and I am here for any questions or comments you may have.
Well, thank you, María, for this presentation. I would like to say that this is a very challenging subject of study. I think that María has showed very well this. I think that she's very brave for having chosen this subject as a study matter, as a study issue. She has said that earthen architecture has often been neglected, so this is a real problem. It is sometimes not well recorded during the excavation works. Sometimes these fragments of earthen materials are not collected, not even collected, or sometimes they are not present in the inventories of archaeological findings. So it is very difficult to approach the study of this material. They are not correctly stored. They are accumulated in the warehouses of the museums. So there are a lot of difficulties to study this kind of materials. And one of the most difficult aspects is, as she has shown, to determine the specific technique that has been used. So for these reasons, we still have important gaps in our knowledge of these techniques, of this material. So, well, I don't know if someone has a question. You can ask the questions with your hand, or you can put it on the chat. Podéis preguntar en español, podeu preguntar en català, en l'idioma que us sentiu més còmodes a través del xat, o bé aixecant la mà i preguntant amb el micro obert.
Encara no s'ha animat ningú.
No, estan molt tímids. Karen Fortuny, Karen.
Hola, bones.
Hola.
Hola, Maria, què tal? Bé, és que a mi com m'interessa molt aquest tema en una altra cronologia, però que també tenim, o creiem que poden utilitzar-se moltes tècniques semblants. Has comentat al principi, quan parlaves dels antecedents, crec que era de l'època del bronze, a l'ús de stone bases, i m'ha semblat, potser és que no ho he entès bé, que deies que era com un reforç de la paret. Bé, si podries esclarir una mica com funcionava, perquè aquestes coses ens les trobem també en contextos tardans i no sé si d'alguna forma el que has dit es podria aplicar també als nostres contextos. Saps de què et parlo? De la diapositiva d'unes primeres?
Sí, Karen, gràcies. Moltes gràcies. Sí, estava parlant de les basaments de pedra, de los zócalos de piedra.
Sí, però dels basaments vols dir que rodegen tota l'habitació?
Sí.
Val. Però és que no sabia si eren els basaments centrals, com que això és la fotografia, tenir com una espècie de basament de suport de coberta. Val.
Sí, a la
Perfecte.
fotografia es veu el basament del mur i també es veu el basament com d'una estructura auxiliar que hi ha cap al mur. Però
Vale.
sí, estava parlant de el fet de construir la part baixa dels murs amb pedres o amb pedres i fang per a protegir, en aquest cas, quan s'utilitza la terra a la part alta del mur, per a protegir, per exemple, de la humitat del sol.
Sí, val, perfecte, perfecte. Gràcies.
Gràcies a tu.
Hola. Una cosa, suposo que com ha comentat la Karen, la vostra recerca i l'especialització de la Maria dona peu a treballar o col·laborar amb altres equips, oi, de l'ICAC, que puguin fer aproximacions o que puguin haver trobat restes que no s'hagin analitzat o que puguin estar interessats, diguem, en fer aquesta aproximació més transversal? Podria ser?
Sí, i tant.
Sí, clar que podria ser, sí. Estaria molt bé. Clar, com comentava a la presentació, les restes constructives de terra estan en moltíssims contexts històrics diferents i geogràfics. I també les metodologies i la metodologia de l'anàlisi macroscòpic que presentarem la doctora Carme Velarte i jo al pròxim seminari, també és una metodologia molt transversal, amb aplicacions molt transversals i de segur que es podria aplicar molt bé.
Bueno, no sembla que salim no sé si ha quedat tot molt clar.
Això és, tot molt clar.
Ha quedat tot molt clar i no...
I gràcies de nou a tota la gent que s'ha connectat i a Carmen per la presentació i a Maura per l'organització també.
Sí, ara ben aviat, ara estem just a punt de publicar més informació sobre el seminari, però qualsevol persona interessada ho podrà trobar-ho a la web, tant de l'agenda com des de l'agenda com de les notícies, i a través dels correus de la Carme i la Maria hi podeu contactar per a més informació. Gràcies.